Hey guys, so in this live session we are trying to build something similar to this GIF kind of a thing, where it's kind of a portal which you kind of see through and there is an object inside it, and then it's kind of some kind of a portal where magical things and stuff. We are trying to recreate this entire thing inside SparkAR. So this is not a filter yet, but we are trying to recreate something like this with our assets and everything. So that is what we are going to see in this live stream. Maybe if this might be kind of like multiple sessions, but today we are just going to see how we are going to make this in SparkAR. So I'll just open SparkAR. So I'll just create a simple sharing experience. I'll just make it bigger. Hope you guys can see the entire screen. Yeah. So I'll just import the models I'll be using for this. So this is the island which we are trying to convert this into a portal. So this is going to be what's behind the portal and what's going to be visible. So this is what we are just going to convert this into like a portal, what I shared before. So just, this is like a simple model which one of our 3D artists made. So as you can see, we are just going to convert this into something like a portal kind of an experience where you just see through it, see through some other object and you see this tree. So I'll just, the textures looks kind of like whitewashed. So I'll just try to see, convert them to like linear. So I don't want them to be, I want this to be like a flat material. I'll just convert everything to a flat material. Yeah. So for people who are joining now, we are trying to recreate kind of a portal experience, which is similar to this. We are just trying to recreate this kind of a look in a SparkAR experience where you can just see through it and see through, when you see through it, you will just see this tree. So we are just trying to recreate this kind of a look on SparkAR. So I'll just use patch editor to basically like remove the white parts, because if you see on the textures, it's actually a JPG texture, so it doesn't have a transparency in them. So I'll just have an alpha map for that, so I'll just use that. So I'll just swizzle out, like basically this texture, alpha texture is black and white, so I'll just swizzle out only the parts I want. Like I'll just swizzle out and then apply it to the alpha, and then I'll just apply over here. So it's kind of like flipped out. So I'll just change this. So here you can just see we have like an alpha texture which is being applied directly. So this is going to be the tree. So sometimes if you see, you can just see, I'll just grab and I'll just move here. So here you can just see there is an issue where the back behind the objects are not visible. So this is because of, so this is because like the trees are being rendered after this leaves are being rendered. So in order to solve this, So I'll just delete these textures which I don't want, so I can just save up sometimes. So basically how we can solve this is that if you go to the materials dots for the leaf and then go to the alpha test, if I just enable it, you can just see it automatically like does like just removing the parts. If I just move the slider, you can just see it is removed. So basically what's happening is it's only rendering the parts which is like which has the RGB value, and like it's not rendering the alpha slots. So if you have any issues where like some elements are being rendered and then some elements are like something like this, you can always, if you have issues where if I just move over here, you can just see it's not showing what's behind. Basically what's happening is that the trees are being rendered after the leaves is being rendered. So either you can if you have the models where like the both of them are separate, you can change the render order, or what you could do is that you could always go to the materials property, and under the materials alpha test you can just enable it and then you can just change it. So you can just see still it's there. So I'll just go to the leaf. So I can just play with this slider and you can just see it's just working now. Like if I just go here, you can just see it's showing what's behind it. So this is the tree which you are going to use. So what I'll do is we are going to make this a world AR experience. So we are going to do this as a world AR experience. So I'll just create a plane tracking. And I'll just create a null object for this. So the reason I'm creating a null object and then adding these things inside is that I'll be using tags, render tags, to basically create the masking and everything. So in that way, it will be easy for me to like swap up models or like swap elements and try to do the look I am looking for. So I think like even few people have messaged me on or commented on my YouTube live. So basically this is going to be this live is happening on Instagram as well as on my YouTube channel. So some people have commented on my YouTube saying they didn't understand the part for the like the hiding part. So I'll just show again. So basically what's happening is that if I just remove the alpha test, so I'll just explain it again. So sometimes you might have an issue where you can just see because of the textures you will not be able to see that the behind the elements are not being rendered. So this is happening because the trees are rendered later, then like the leaves are being rendered first and then the trees are being rendered. So because of that, what's happening is that the trees like maybe that's the opposite or something like that, but what's happening is one is being rendered and then like the behind the elements are like not being rendered properly. So because of that you might see this issue where it's say like because we don't have a proper alpha texture here, we are just faking it. Sometimes what will happen is that it might see like there is no objects behind it. So because of that there might be an issue where like the objects behind it will not be rendered. So that is the reason why we will have to use this alpha test. So what if you click on the material you are using, this alpha test will be under the render options. So basically you can just enable this and then play with the slider value. And once you just go to 0, you can just see the entire images, like entire element is not being rendered, but you can just play with the slider until you get what you want. So you can just see, I'll just zoom here. Here you can just see once I just move the slider away, you can just see that the tree is being rendered properly. This is the look we are going for. So you can just see the edges is being like reduced. So we can just reduce the cutoff value and you can just drop where you feel it's good. So now you can just see it's working properly. So now we have this 3D model under the plane tracking and under a null object. The reason being is that I want to use a null object as like a parent to control multiple objects. So in future, if I want to add other elements into the experience without breaking or doing anything, I'll be using this. So here you can just see this is like basically a simple experience where I can just walk around, use WASD to walk around. you can just take a look of the 3D model. Now you can just see the entire 3D model is being displayed. So the next step is basically to enter a name or tag for this, where I'll just go to the tags and then enter hidden. So you can use any names for the tags. So basically this tags you will be using later onwards on the patch editor to create like the hidden value, or like you'll be accessing this tags to enable like show what all elements which has the tags. So now since I'll just save this, I'll just save this, and we'll need one more element. So basically in order to achieve the look we are going for, that is like for people who are joining, we are trying to create this kind of an experience using this model on SparkAR for people who are just joining now. So now you can just see we have that base model and we can just go around this model. It's like pretty simple now. But what's next is that in order to create this effect, we need to have like some elements to like show it, like basically a portal which allows us to show this. So what we are going to create is that I'm just going to a blender and create a simple shape like this to create like show this object like this thing, and then I'll just create a simple floor for this. So I'm on Blender. So what we are going to do is we are just going to create a simple shape for showing the objects. So I'll just go to a sphere, isosphere. So you can just use any shape you want, like basically the shape acts as like a portal. So you can change obviously you can change the shape of it. You can just make it like a 2D shape, anything you want. In this case I'm just using a 3D to make it easy for me, but you can even use like a 2D shape or like a plane with the texture, alpha texture to it. You can use that. So I'll just go to the edit mode and I'll just grab this tool. I'll just create a rough shape I want. Like this is kind of like, you can just always change with this, but I'm just going to create a rough shape with this. So this looks kind of like a fire. So I'm just okay with this. Like we can just use shades mode or like flat, but I'll just anyway I'm going to use a flat shader on the SparkAR. So we no need to worry about how this looks. So I just want to achieve that general shape of it. So to give some depth to it, I'll just even go to the shape keys and then create one more shape key. I'll just go I'm just trying to create some simple like movements to it, so like it looks good. So what I'll do is I'll just maybe do some movements in the on bottom, and then make it like look, it's kind of like moving, the fire is moving. So you can just play with this, like the shape you want or the animation you want. So I'm just going for this subtle look, for subtle movement. So that's why like I'll just do this. Once you have the shape for the thing, what I'll do is I'll just maybe change its pivot point to the bottom, so it's easy for me to like place the object on the floor. Okay, I think I changed it on the keyframe. So if you are editing in Blender, make sure like when you change anything, you're not inside the shape keys. So accidentally I was inside the shape keys, so it happened like this. So what I'll do is I'll just go here outside of the shape keys and then grab it and move it to the top, and then change its pivot point here. So now you can just see it's like we have like a subtle movement here. So I'm just going to export this file. So what I also create in meantime is I'll just export this file. It is exported as a PNG FBX. Okay, I think for some reason it's not exporting. Yeah. If Blender crashed, I'll just have to create that again. So I'll just go and create something simple again. Like basically I forgot to save the file, so I have to create it again. So I'll just do it again. So I am just going to the isosphere, and then what I'll do is I'll just get to the proportional editing and grab this. I'll just go to the edit. So I'll just grab this and create a simple like fire kind of a shape, or you can just use any shape you want. So in this case, I'm kind of like going with this fire kind of a vibe. So once you create this, also in meantime, I'll just change its pivot point from the edit mode. So now I'll just go to the shape keys. I'll create one more shape keys. You can basically create this kind of like a moving element using vertex displacement, but for this case I'm just going to use like simple texture, like edited texture kind of a thing, so it's easy. So you can just see it's like it has subtle movements in it. I don't want a huge movement, just a subtle movement to make it like not look static kind of a thing. That is the vibe I'm going for. So I'll just go here and like maybe edit this. So I just see if this works. Yeah. So I'll just export this as FBX. So I'll just close this for now. And I'm just bringing the FBX here, the portal FBX. So if I just bring it to this part, you can just see it's kind of like a simple shape. And if I just go to the share, like the model, you can just see the blend shape we created. So now I'll just create one more null object. So I'll just rename this as like hidden. And this is like mask. So we are just creating like a null object to basically club them into like a single objects. So it's easy for us to use. So once I bring it, you can just see the shape is kind of like a huge. So I'll just go and like modify it on this child. So we can always, since we are using tags, so basically I'll just go here and like create a tag called mask. So since we are using like the tag method, this can be always like we can change this anytime. Like basically you could just go here and change this 3D model scale and it will automatically reflect, basically because we are using like a tag based method, and then we are using like a parent based, like basically we are just getting the parent and then doing the elements. So if we do any changes to its child, it is going to be automatically reflected. So now what I will do is I'll just grab this and I'll just move it outside. I'll just go to the camera here. I'll go to the device and create a basic like this thing. For anti-aliasing, I'll just create a simple render pass setup. So we are not going to use the object over here because we need to create our own kind of like a pass kind of a thing. So we are not going to use this. So this is where the tags comes in. Like basically I don't want to show everything, so I'll just create, this is like a simple setup. So if I just go and use the tag mask.subtree, you can just see the model is being viewed here. So if you don't know about render tags or render passes, I've already made some videos or like YouTube tutorials about it. You can go check them. So you can just see, since we are using these tags, we can easily fetch the elements we want. Like basically we are just skipping out the tree. So if I want to show the tree, I can just change it to hidden, and you can just see that only the trees are being visible, like the mask is being visible, and we can just see the mask is not being visible over here. So this is because we are only rendering the hidden. So this is the reason why we are using render tags and we are not using the objects, because if we use object, it will render everything under the object, but it will not render everything under plane tracking, but it will render everything under the device. So we want to create our own passes and we want to create our own looks. So that is the reason why we are using tags. So now what I'll do is I'll go to the portal. I'll just change this to like a white color. So what I'll also do is I'll just, in meantime, I'll just go outside here. I'll just create some loop animation, like I'll just create a loop. I'll just create a transition. So because we could connect it directly, if I just hide the portal, we can connect it directly, but I want to control like even like minute points. For example, I want to like make it transition from 0 to 0.5 or something like that, or loop between that. So that is the reason why I'm just going to like use a transition patch, so we could control the values like the output. So I'll just make this like 0.5 and I'll just make it mirror. So you might not be able to see it properly, but you can just see it is kind of like has a subtle look in it. So that is why like I'm just going with this. So I can even like increase the speed if I want. Here you can just see, or I could even like get an exponential smoothing and pass it on to this. If it's not visible, I'll just make the number faster. So there is kind of like a subtle movement in it. Like we are not looking for like a big movement or something like that. We are just looking for a subtle movement. So that is why we are just using like a simple kind of an experience. So now what I'm going to do is I'll just go to here. I'll just change the camera feed to some other thing so we can just see what the background is. So we can walk around the experience. So what I'll do is I'll just reduce the size of this, so it's like it's kind of huge. So later onwards we can increase it, and like we don't need to worry about that aspect. Yeah. So I'll just create one more scene render pass, and then like I'll just put here, and this is going to be the mask. So what we can do now is like we can just make a simple mask of this kind of a to only show what's from here. So if I just open this part, you can just see this gives us like this model, and then if I just move, you can just see it's being updated. So using this, we are going to use this as a custom mask. So like let's take like make it simple. I could use this as a custom segmentation. So what I'll do is I'll just change the color. So you can just see it as a default color. Once you change it, you can just see the background changes, like the color changes. So what I'll do is I'll just pick white and reduce its opacity to 0. So now I'll just reduce it to opacity to 0. So it's kind of like a transparent kind of a thing. So now you can just get its alpha. I'll just go to swizzle, and like we can get a W like X, or even you can get an alpha of it directly. And if I just connect it directly over here, it just shows like a gray screen and then the alpha. So basically this is what you are going to use as a mask. So I'll just put this over here. So now I'll just create a mix node. I'll just use this as an alpha for here. I'll connect this over here. I'll just connect this over here. Now you can just see we created a mask we want. If I just zoom, you can just see we created a simple mask, but you can just see this, we are not able to see the camera texture. So what I'll do is I'll just remove this from here. So now you can just see we have a mask, and then even like over here, I'll just convert this default color to nothing. So we can just create our background. So now what we are going to do is we are just going to create a mix node. Excuse. And then we are just going to get the same alpha here, or even we can just do this where you can just see there is like a gray over here, because this element doesn't like this the hidden world doesn't have anything to its background. So you can just give this background over here if you want, or if you want to create a separate background for this, you can add that texture to it. So basically you can add a different texture where like this entire thing is in a different world, or you can either use the same camera texture. So now you can just see, if I just move here, you can just see the mask is being changed, and then like it is being updated, and we can just go around and you can just see the mask is being updating like in real time. So as I mentioned, if I just move this portal, this is going to be like a dynamic, because we are using like a tag for this, or since we are using a render pass based method, this, even if I just move this anywhere, you can just see that is being updated, like whatever is seen from that point is going to be shown. I'll just convert this to 0 again. So I feel this is not like we need to show a huge like a full tree. So for people who are joining, we are trying to recreate this similar kind of an portal kind of a look on SnapAR. So what I'll do is I'll just reduce its size 0.6, 0.6, 0.6. And then maybe I can just move this a little upper. Yeah. So now we can just see that. If I just go in front, you can just see it's there. If I just hide the portal, you can just see nothing is being visible. So that is why we are using kind of a mask method. So what I will do is I'll just rotate this facing the user. So I think it's facing the user, so I think I'll just keep it in that way itself. Then I'll just save it. So if you want to create, you can just create a simple portal like this. Like this is how like you can easily create a portal, and then you can just move around. So basically we are just using like two different elements. Like basically we have this hidden world, and then we have this mask, which is like going to be defining it. And if you have certain elements you want to add in front of, you can just add. So next what I will do is I'm just going to create a platform for like placing this entire thing. There I'm just trying to create a simple like freeze the camera texture. I'm just going to see if I can freeze the camera texture at that point and then add it as like a like floor or something. So I'll just go back to Blender again. So even I'll just save this thing. So I'll create a new general file. I'll just create a plane. So what I'm trying to achieve is like I'm just trying to create this kind of a floor where it's kind of like gradually going up, and then there's a grass, and then for this part, like for this part, I'm planning to create a get the user's camera texture uh, to add like basically get the camera texture and freeze it to show like it's part of the world. So can we add move the like move inside the portal? So for moving inside a portal, that's kind of like a different kind of a portal, where in that case what you will be doing is basically you will be creating an holder around the objects, and then you will be doing it. Whereas in this case what's happening is this it's based like same as like an actual like segmentation or something like that, where only through this, if it is, what happens is you can move through this and you can just see it works. But what happens is that if the tracking is not proper, like if the tracking moves, if this 3D model moves, then the entire experience moves away. But yeah, we could even like move this shape is like, since this shape is kind of big enough to show what's inside, we can move inside of this. But if the shape, like the mask you're using is a flat 2D texture or something like that, in that case you might not be able to move inside it. So that is one of the reason why I like created this. So if I just increase the size of the mask to 2, you can just see the entire 3D is visible, but even I could just walk inside this completely. Since the mask is not being visible, so basically what's happening is, if I just go here, you can just see it's getting invisible, like it's not being rendered. The reason is that if I just open the mask texture, if I just go back, so I'll just reduce the size so you can just see this texture clearly. So here you can just see we have this element. So this, the material we are using this as like a single side, like it is going to be like, it is a single sided material. If I just go inside this, inside the 3D model, what's happening is that it's not being rendered. So that's why you can just see the mask is being hidden. It's not displaying the mask. If I just turn on the double sided, you can just see it works perfectly. It's same as like you just moving into this 3D model. If I just don't have this double sided, you can just see the behind the scenes of the 3D model is not being rendered. So that is why you can just see the mask like here. So if I just turn this to double sided, you can just see the behind the parts are also being rendered. So I'll just save this and I'll just go back to Blender. Then I guess we can make a mask and give it like a door, so the mask doesn't come in and come in the way from the other side. So yeah, like basically what you could do is that So this method, you can like basically you don't need to use this method for that kind of a portal experience, where this portal experience is something you just see outside and you don't go inside it. So if you want to create a portal experience, that's where you just go inside the 3D model, like inside something. In that case, what you could do is that you could create a different kind of a portal experience where you use occulters and everything to basically do it. So for example, in this case, if I want to create this into like a walk-in kind of a portal, where this what we are going to make is not like a walk-in kind of a portal, but is going to be a different kind of a portal where you just walk around it and then you just see something like interact with it, like it moves around the 3D world and stuff. If you want to create a portal where you walk inside it and then do something, then that is going to be achieved in a different way. So maybe I'll just try to create the same experience in like different ways in the future, where I'll just create a different kind of a portal where you could walk into a maybe into this kind of into this tree and then you see something different. So we can even do that, but will be in a different video. Yeah. Yeah, like I am in love with render paths. Basically, it's kind of fun to play with, and render tags are like one of the fun things I use a lot in my projects. If I need anything to do with render paths, I'll just go to the render tags first, because it simplifies, like, and it's kind of like a procedural based materials for me, like, because if I just go and like if I want to add one more mask, I'll just add the mask here. If I just go to the tags here and then like add mask, and then if I just get this out, what's behind the thing. So here you can just see, I'll just increase the size here. Here you can just see this part is being rendered, because like you can see the mask here, and then like you can just see this plane is being acting as a mask. So the reason being is that since we are using like the render tags based, this we can achieve easily, where we could just give the tags here. If I just remove the tag, it is not working. If I just add the tag back, you can just see it is working out of the box. So like this is why like I kind of love render tags. It makes us like easy for us to achieve elements like these. So I'll just delete this. I'll just save it. So what we are going to do is I'm just going to create a simple floor for this. So I have a floor for this, but I just want to try something different, and like I want to try something different. So I'll just go and create maybe isosphere. I'll go to the edit mode. I'll just delete these elements, because I wanted like a flat kind of a flow or like thing. So I could just get this and scale it on like x or y, scale it other than like a z axis. So that is, I could just go. So you can just see, if I'm just scaling it on y axis and then z axis. So it's kind of like a flattened out, like it's kind of like flattened out, where it's kind of like a proper floor, where we can, what I'm planning is like basically gradually fading out the real world and then like fading in like a green color. So I'll not be giving this save file, because this is like one I'm doing as a personal project, and then the model is developed by I have a studio where the model was developed by one of our 3D model like artists. So I can't give that model basically, but thus I'm just sharing the process of like how we are making it. You can use any models or like any shapes. So that is the reason why I'm kind of like remaking this experience like completely, like I'm just redoing this kind of a model here. So what, I'll just go to the UV and then see how the UV looks. Maybe what I'll do is, yeah, this kind of looks good. So we will have to change the UV, but I'll just change it after we edit the model. So I'll just try to see if I can share the file, but you can anyway, like this video is going to be live, like this is going to be a video on YouTube too, so you can watch and continue. But I'll just see if I can swap the model or like do. But yeah, so what I'll do is I'll just go here and like even like make this bigger kind of, and then grab this and like maybe use a proportional editing to make it like a flat or something. So this looks like a flow we want. And then what I'll do is maybe like add some, I'll go to the knife over here. I'll just add some vertices over here because I want to like edit them. So why I'm doing this is that I want to kind of like make this like uneven shape, so it's kind of like easy to like do. So that's why like I'm kind of like doing this, where I want vertices over these points so I can just change them. So what I'm doing is that I'm kind of like having these points which I can later on. Now what I can do is I'll just go here and then I could just grab these points and move it if I want, like to create like an uneven shape or something like that, to create some kind of a fade, or like if I want I could just do this and make it not kind of like an even surface. It's kind of like as that jittery stuff, or like to create a look where it's not even on like not proper shape. So this is like the base of the portal which we are going to use. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to change its UV. So I'm not a master at like 3D modeling or stuff. So only I'm just making like a simple element. I'll just, yeah, maybe I'll just do this, where it's kind of like I could create a gradient from center to outside to create kind of like a smooth look. So I'll just save this file and then export it. Export as a FBX. So now I'll just save this again. I'll just close this for now. I'll bring the platform here. So I can like even create one more element. So here you can just see this is the reason why I'm kind of using like multiple null objects, because I could easily rearrange them in the ways I want. So in this case what happens is you can just see the world is different, this is like mask is different, so I can even easily like rearrange them in a way I want. Okay, this is 0.6. Yeah, maybe we'll just, yeah, this looks good, I think. So later onwards we'll just see how I'm going to like change, like look, make it different from this inside this world and then outside the edge. So we'll just see it later, but we'll just continue with this, where I have this one more world where I can just call it like normal, where I'll just drop this in here. So this kind of looks kind of huge. So I'll just reduce its scale. I want kind of a gap between these two elements. Yeah, so what I'll do is, so you can just see this model is not being rendered because this doesn't have any tags in them. So that is the reason why this is not being rendered. So that is why like I'm kind of see the render pass setup I have. I'm doing like a custom kind of a pass thing where I'm rendering only the elements I want. I'm not rendering everything. So this gives us like a more flexibility where we can easily change the renders and stuff. So what I will do is I'll just create one more pass here, and then like maybe name it normal. So I could connect it directly here if I want. I'll just change it like, if I just connect it directly, you can just see how it looks. But yeah, I'll just remove this object here. I didn't change the mask here, I'll just change it to normal. You can just see it's kind of like the look what you're going for. So what I'll do is I'll just bring it up here and then connect the camera texture to here too. I'll just pull this floor a little down so we can kind of see a gap. I'll just even go here and like get the same transition. I'll just try to use the same loop if I want. I'm just going to create like the up and down motion or like stuff like that, so it's not static. So I don't want to move on the Z axis, I'll just move only on the Y axis. It's kind of faster, so I'll just go create new one. So it's kind of like good where it's not static, like it's not like staying, so it's kind of like it has like that small movement kind of a thing. I'll just change the movement to less. So because like we are not going for like over exaggerated movement, we are just going for that subtle movement. So now I'll just go back, since we are using like the mask of the select. Basically, since we are using tags and render pass, even if it moves, you can just see it's like being rendered like properly as we want. I'll just come here. So I'll just save it again. So now what I'll do is I'll just try to create like a gradient kind of a thing where let's make this like maybe a standard material. Make this white. I'll get this. Create a gradient. Convert this like to circular. So I'll just use directly, if I want I can just use it directly here. So you can just see like it has like that gradient fall off and everything. Or you could just use this for a gradient step. connect to this to the gradient, and I can just get this output over here. In this way we can like, I'll just hide other parts for now. So in this way we can kind of like create a shadow, as well as like we could even like create like a fading off here. I'll just change it to like 0.5. Here you can just see we can like play with this gradient. If what I'm trying to achieve is like, I want to create like a freeze frames over here, and then combine like a green texture and other things. So that's why like I'm just creating a perfect spot I want. I'll just take this and I'll apply it to a mix node as its alpha. I'll just create a value node because I want to control the colors. So it's easy if you use like a value node instead of like changing the mix directly. So you can just see the gradient is being applied. I could change it to 2. You can just see it's kind of like faded in the edges. So that's the kind of like thing I'm just going for. And then I'll just change this to change the, so here you can just see it clearly. Since it had the replace, it was not visible, but here you can just see we have like a slight gradient. So I want it to be like even more. I could just go here and like maybe change it to like 1.3. So what I'm trying to do is basically, yeah, instead of 0 in the mix, it's better to use color swizzle. Yeah, like I kind of like tend to use with this, but I think yeah, if you put 0, what happens is that slot sometimes kind of creates like a black edges or something like that. So even we could just do this where like colors, or like maybe we could just use a swizzle, and then we could just use RGB or like XYZ 0. So it makes sure that the final like the alpha is 0. So for people who are joining, basically I'm trying to create like a portal kind of a thing. I'm just using a step instead. So people who are joining now, I'm just creating like a simple portal where it's kind of fires is there, and then like things are flying in there. I'll just show. So I'm just trying to create something like this in Spark AR and AR, trying to create this into like an AR experience for people who are joining. Yeah. I could even like change the color if I want. I'll just make this like a little brown shade or something like that. I could just change the fall off here. Yeah. You can just see if once I add the portal, it just cuts the space via like the portal is showing, like the mask is being showing. So if I just go back, just as like that floor thing. I'm just changing the size over here. Yeah. Later on, my idea is to basically like use like freeze frame and then do like freezing whatever is like the camera texture below. So that is what I'm planning to do later on. But now we'll just stick with this. Maybe I'll just change it to like some brown color or something like that. I'm just trying to see which does look good in it. I think like we'll just go with the standard material for now. What I'll do is I'll just rearrange this perfectly. I'll move it aside. So now I'll just go to the asset panel here, AR library, because I'm just going to import some free patches which we'll be using. I'll go to the shader. I'll just kind of download the blur. I'm just looking for Rgb Shift. So why we are going to use an Rgb Shift is like to make this kind of like smooth, or like make this move properly. Make the distinction between like this edge and then the outside portal edge. It's too, I think it's kind of like too bright. You can just see the difference between like this thing. If even 0 hours like something, I'll just make it like minus point, like 0.1 or 2. Excuse. Because I'm just looking for that subtle look. I'm not looking for like a more prominent look. I'm just looking for that subtle look. So that's why like I'm just doing this. I'll just blur the background for this a little bit. So if we do some changes, we can't directly give it to the background slot, because it needs, if I just give it, it just shows an error, because it needs to get a texture, as in like a texture kind of input. So that's why we are just going to create this shader render pass. What this does, basically, to simplify it, this kind of like converts the shader output into like an image kind of a thing. Like this is to just make it simplified to understand. If I just give it here, we just put black, you can just see the background is being blurred, but I'll just use it slightly because I don't want that much prominent thing. So if you want, you can use a texture, or you can use a color for your, like, I'll just maybe like show here. You can just see we can use either like a solid color if we want, if you are going for that look, or we can use like an image or like something like that. And we'll just put here. We can use like a color if you're going for that, but or we can just use this. For now, I'll just use the color, and even I'll just reduce the opacity, but we don't need that. But I'll just use it. For now, I'll just maybe turn off the floor. We'll just concentrate on this. So now I'll just get a texture distortion patch here. Why I'm doing this is like to make this element, like this thing, like whatever is inside, kind of like give like a smooth look or like texture distortion in it. So it's kind of like looks good. So it doesn't look kind of a flat. I could do in this end too. Like since I'm kind of like reusing the same for like a camera texture for the distortion, we'll just change the texture later. What I'm going to do is I'll just go get a noise texture. And I'll just make this mirror or repeat or something like that, because if it is clamp, we can't use like change the texture. So what I'm planning to do is basically kind of like create a where it's kind of like moving, is not static. So for that case, if we give it to clamp, what happens is, I'll just show you in a second. So maybe I'll just give it to clamp, make it to clamp, and I'll just show. So if I just take this and apply a texture sample, and then get the vertex of like the texture coordinates. So this is the look. So if I just create like maybe do an ad, and then like maybe runtime. So what we are doing is like basically we are just moving it little upper, like on X and Y Z axis, but wait. So I want to like move this on Y axis up. So I'll just create a swizzle. So I'll explain what I'm doing in a minute, but you can just show here. You can just see here that once it's more, I'll just make this maybe 0x. So what's happening is that since we have like a clamp over here, if I just move it like so, what happening is we are just moving it top, and since we are clamping it to the UVs, so we are creating this, like this is happening like this. If I just change this to repeat, you can just see it kind of like keeps on moving. So that's the reason why we have to convert this to repeat, like U and V tiles. So basically what's happening is that, yeah, so what's happening is that I'll just show you. So I downloaded a image, like basically I just downloaded a noise image. It can be any noise image, and then I'll just lay it out here so you can just see it clearly. So what's happening is that the texture sample takes in a UV and then like display it based on that. So what we are doing is that we are modifying the texture coordinates. So if we add something to it, what happens is it's kind of like moves the texture up or down. If we divide the values here, like if I just do division or like multiplication, it just kind of like reduces scale. You can just see since I divided it to 0.2, the scale of it is changing. Let's just put 0.3. So division and multiplication, basically it's kind of like zooming in and zooming out. So that is what division and multiplication will do for the texture coordinates. So if I just show you, this is the texture coordinates, whereas the addition and subtraction basically moves the objects up and down or like left side. So that is how we can create like a scrolling animation. In order to create a scroll of like, basically it can be like you can use this method for like maybe scrolling a road to give that animated look. So what we are doing is that we are taking the texture sample of that, we are just taking the image and then using texture sample, we are just manipulating its UV. So in a way that it's kind of like gives us an illusion of it's moving. So we'll just connect this, where we are just using, like we are only moving it on y-axis. You can just see here clearly. Y-axis basically nothing but it just goes up. So we can even change this to, like if I just convert this to minus 0.2, it just moves down, because like topward is like is plus y, and below is like if it moves below, it's kind of like minus y. Whereas it is same as like if I just put x0, what happens is it's moving left to right, like basically this is like on moving on y-axis, like y. So because of that, what's happening is it's just moving to the negative y coordinate, whereas if I just put it to 0.2, it just moves to the opposite direction. So based on how we want, basically while the runtime is increases, basically runtime is nothing but it's like the time since you start the experience. We just refresh it, you can just see the value. It's basically the time passed during the experience starts. So using this, what happens is, like since this is like if I just directly connect the runtime to the output, you can just see it moves faster, and because of that, what happens is you can just see it's kind of like we don't have like a control to it. Once it reaches a stage where it might look it's kind of faster, so that's why we are multiplying it and reducing its output. So it's kind of like even if it is like 23 or like 27, you can just see it's kind of like slow, it's moving like slowly. So using this, you can control it, or even you can use a loop. If you want to create like a loop kind of an animation, you can use a loop and then mirror it. What happens now is that if I just put here, you can just see it's kind of like creating a different kind of an animation. So for people who are joining now, we are just trying to create like a portal thing, but I'm just showing how we can use the texture, how we can displace the texture or like scroll the texture. So I'll just go with the runtime. So I'll just repeat it again. Yeah, so basically I'll just repeat it again. So I have this noise and I want to create like a scrolling animation. Like it's just, I don't want it to be static, I just want it to like move. So because of that, what I am doing is that I'm manipulating its UV. So I'm just adding a value to its y-axis, or I can just change it. I'll add a value to its I'll just do this where I'm just adding the UVs, like the y-axis, like y kind of a coordinate values to it. So what's happening is it's kind of like moving in an upwards direction. Even I could just use like a multiply or divide to like scale it up or scale it down. I could just do divide. If I just do -1, you can just see it's kind of like zooms in. So the reason why we are doing this is like we are just animating the noise is that we want to kind of like make this texture like this thing not static. So I'll just maybe do it like 2. So basically divides kind of like zooms in and multiply kind of like zooms out. So I just want to come close here. So this creates like a small animation. I can just change to +1. So now I'll just use this as a texture for the displacement. If I just connect this as a texture, it might be like heavy in the sense like it might do like a lot of work, but yeah, you can just see it's kind of like moving because of that. You can just see the texture is being displaced. So I don't want the strongness, so I'll just only get y-axis or like z-axis or x-axis. I'll just whistle in. So if I just increase the value for the divide, you can just see the displacement is being like small. I'll just go for 5. So this is kind of heavy. So what I'll do is I'll just reduce the opacity. You can just see it has a subtle movement, but it doesn't like affect it entirely. You can play with the values to like basically create it. I'm just good with this. I think this kind of feels even more, so I'll just do 0.5, 1.5. Yeah, this kind of like gives us like a subtle movement. Yeah, so this kind of like gives us that subtle movement. Like if I just bring the GIF here, so for people who are joining, we are just trying to achieve this kind of a look on SparkAR as an AR experience. So we can now till now what we made is that we just made the shape and then like the inside part. So we'll be later onwards, like I'll just on the coming sessions I'll be making the outer layer like just the fire kind of a thing, and then like the particles and stuff like that, and maybe add a little bit of texture distortion like to the entire shape. So even what you can do is even you can like use a particle for like a texture distortion. I'll just add one more plane here, null object. I'll just name it distortion, and like I'll just on the tags I'll just change it to dir for distortion. I'll just add a particle emitter. I'll just increase its size. I'll change the world span to like a plane, so it's kind of like covers this region. 0.4. It's kind of like covering this island. 0.5, 0.5. I'll change its lifetime to like 2 seconds, something like that. I'll just change it to 3 seconds. Now I'll just go for the texture. I'll create a material. I'll just get the material and I'll create a SDF circle. So what we are doing is that we are just going to create, yeah, this is going to be uploaded on my YouTube channel too. It is actually live streaming on YouTube too. So what we are doing is that we are just going to create like a simple smooth shape for like the particles is going to be acting as like a distortion texture too, rather than a noise. If you want, you can use this. You can always play with the values and like see how it works. Yeah. So I'll just increase, it's so small, so I'll just do like 0.1, like minus 0.2. Yeah. So you can just see it's kind of like as like a particle thing. So we are going to use this particle kind of like as a texture displacement. So in this way, it's kind of like always we can change the particle. It's kind of fun way. So what I'll do is, since we have a name for this particle as dir, I could even like get one more scene render pass and then put dir over here. Now you can just see we are getting only the particles part. What I will do is I'll just enable the mask again, and now I could just connect this directly as a distortion texture. So you can just see wherever the particle is, that is where the distortion is happening. So instead of us like distorting the entire thing, we are only distorting like doing this thing on the part where the mask is happening. So now even it's like kind of huge. The amount of distortion is huge. So what I'm going to do is I'll just go to the texture here. Like this is the particle texture. I'll just reduce its opacity. You can just see it has the distortion in it, but again it's not that much prominent. Like you can just see it's kind of like it's wobbly and kind of a thing, but it's not heavy. So we could even like do like depth test and depth right. So in this way it's kind of like, since this is going to be like a white texture, and since we are doing it in a masked environment, we can just see the distortion is happening, and like if you just move around, it is not going to be same, because since we are using particles, the elements are going to be different from each angle. So because of that, we'll just get a good result. We could even like change this order and like try to like get a different look if you want. I'll just remove the noise for now. So for people who are joining now, we are kind of recreating a portal kind of an experience on SparkAR. So this is like the first session, like I'll be closing this session in few minutes, but we'll be continuing this live tomorrow or like day after. Even you can use the same distortion like on the mask. We have the mask here. If I just do here, I'll just get this noise maybe. I'll just grab this particle texture to here, so it's easy for us to like work with. If I just connect it here, we can just see how the mask looks. So it's not that much prominent. If I just change it to 1, yeah, now you can just see like if based on value view, like you can just see it's being like applied. So now you can just see, if I just move, you can just see it's cannot like, it's not stable, or like if I just connect this part here, it's kind of, you change the view, it just changes differently. So if you want to do something different, you can like try it in like a 3D distortion something, but here you can just see based on like the view angle, you can just see the mask itself is being like displaced. If I just change the scale, you can just see it's kind of like a different look here. So I'll just maybe do this, where I'll just pack it. So I'll just do like, this is happening on side angle, like you can just see the movement is on sideways. So I want it on like this to like, I could do this and like it just moves like horizontal or something like that. So I'll just for now I'll just keep the movement on y-axis alone. You can just see the edges are being like displaced too. If I just do like 2 or something, so the more the number on the divider is, like the zoomed it will be. So now what we are using is like, we are distorting the mask texture as well as we are doing this. So like you can just see here, this is without the distortion, where it's kind of like looks simple, where like you can just see the shape alone like moves up and down. But in this case, if I just do this, the shape has like a liquid kind of a feel to it. It's not static or something like that. And we are having a one more distortion over here. For that, if I just connect without the RGB, you can just see we have one more distortion inside using a texture like the particles. So you can just increase the particle and the distortion will be different. If I just make it to 2, you can just see the number of particles being spawned is less. If I just change it to like 20, like 30 something, you can just see the distortion is happening more. So using this, you can basically create your own custom distortion texture, and then like we are just creating this kind of a look where the mask is being distracted, and the distortion is happening on the mask and everything. But now this distortion, how it's happening on the mask is that this might not change. Like basically what's happening is this is the distortion texture we are using. So if I just change, like basically what's happening is that it's not happening on 3D space. Like basically this is happening only on 2D space. Like it doesn't matter how which direction you change. Basically this is going to be the texture which we will be using. Because of that.
Which one? Harry Prasad HDFC.
Yeah, sorry. So my just Siri got opened. Yeah. So because we are using a 2D texture for the distortion, it might not look like, even if you go around, that might not happen. But what you could do is you can just use vertex displacement to do the same kind of a distortion. But for now on Spark Air, I don't think we can use a texture based vertex displacement as of now, where we can use a texture to distortion the 3D model. But again, like this is kind of like a 2D look we are going for. So I'm just okay with this, where we have two different displacement textures, where like one is going to be, one is a particle and other one is like noise based. So now even if I change the noise, you can just change the distortion texture. Like you can just see this. If I just change the noise texture, it will reflect that. So I can just go grab one more texture from the library. I'll just get this. So if I just swap that texture here, we have to change the tiling here to repeat. You can just see the distortion is different in this. Like you can just see the edges as being different in this. So based on the noise you're using, the texture are like totally different, like differs. So I'll just add in the Rgb Shift. So you can just see the like the difference inside and outside clearly. So I'll just save it. So we'll just drop this session now, like in the sense. So for people who are joining, this is what we are trying to achieve, where we are just trying to create this look on AR experience, like convert this into a AR experience. So till now, what we have achieved is that we have just achieved this kind of like the portal inside kind of a look. On later sessions, we'll be seeing like the other stuff, like adding the particles outside and everything. But in this session, you can just see we just created a mask and then added some distortion texture over here. So I'll just for now keep this without any distortion in the mask. So later onwards, what we'll be doing is that we'll be adding elements on top of this 2D element. Is there a way to change the position of the 2D distortion texture based on the movement of the camera? Yeah, we can do it where like we could get the camera's rotation or something like that, and then feed it to the texture and like feed it to this adding or subtracting to this. We could do it. So if you want, I can just do a simple one. So I'll just directly show this. Like, so what we are going to do is I'll just use the different other noise. Yeah. So what we are going to do is based on where the user is turning the camera, we are going to change the distortion, like add it or subtract it, something like that. So for that, what I'm going to do is I'll just get the camera rotation. Plane rotation. So I'll just get the device rotation. device motion. Yeah, you can just see based on how we rotate, we are getting like the rotation of the device. If I just refresh it, since I like turned it completely on backwards, you can just see the rotation here. So we could get these values and manipulate the x and y axis. What we can do is I'll just create an add over here. I'll just make this to vector 2. So now what we are doing is we are just trying to create the distortion texture based on like how the user rotates their camera. I'll just get a pack. Since we are using a 2D vector, I'll just get a 2D frame over here. So now I could just, what I could do is I'll just extract this. I'll just unpack this vector 3. So we are just going to get a y-axis and then like x-axis. So that is the reason why I'm just unpacking it. So we can just do it. So I'll just take this and go to the progress node. So what progress node does is that it just gives a 0 to 1 value from like this. If like for example, if I just make this where, so this is 170 and positive 170 or something like that. So this is basically like we just put two values, like if I just put 170 to 180, maybe 170 to 180, this gives like, if I just put here, if it is 0, like if it is less than 170, it will be 0. If it is greater than 180, it is going to be 1. That is what it does. So basically just gives like 0 to 1 value, like it just checks the progress, and then we can use this to basically do the values. Like if I just do this, you can just see it's when the y-axis, we are only manipulating the y-axis, but if I just change it, like if the angle is between like 170 or something like this, you can just see it's kind of like moving. So like this you can kind of do it, but again like this kind of like makes it confusion, like it doesn't work as we expect. So that's the reason why we are just using like a simple like 2D distortion texture. Yeah, now till now what we have built is, I'll just go through again like to see what we made. So basically we created a world and we used like an hidden mask for it, and then we created a mask which is going to be like, this is from through the mask we can see the other world, and then we created like the floor. I'm just hidden the floor, but we'll just work on the floor in the next session. But it's kind of like a floor where you just, it's there. And then the other one we created is like a distortion texture. Basically we are just distorting the texture, like the textures inside the portal, like basically to give a depth, like to give a depth where it's kind of like not flat, it's kind of like a moving, it's kind of like a watery kind of a feel. So that's what we have made so far. So we'll just continue with the other ones, like we'll just see how we can add this kind of like outer look to it, and then like add particle flames in the edges on next sessions. But we'll just wrap up this session now. So you can just, this will be on the my YouTube channel, as well as like it is going to be on my YouTube channel as well as my Instagram page. So if you have any questions, you can put it down on the comment section, and I'll try to answer it on the next session. So we'll just wrap up this session now. So if you have any questions, you can ask, and I will just see when I'll be doing the next session, and you can just follow me, and I'll just post when the next session is going to be, where we'll be continue to build this. So basically this effect is going to be, once this is completed, it is going to be live on my Instagram page. So you can give a follow where you can give it a try. So what I will do is I'll just create a test link now. So maybe like one of you people, like 50 people, I think like we can have like 50 links. 50 people can try using a test link. So I'll just post it. So you can just try it, try what we built so far. So we'll just catch up on the next session. Bye.